All right. Hello. Welcome to the Artificially Intelligent Podcast. I am Nathan, a comedian in Iowa. On my screen, my good friend Barrett Antar Goodwin, the musician in Philadelphia, is on the bottom there, but who knows where it's going to be when it's done recording. And then to my left, which means probably stage right, is my good friend Nate Morton. Hello.
Hello to you both.
Hey,
how you guys doing?
How are you?
We're
man, how you
good.
cats doing?
So we were talking just before I hit record, and Nate was asking Barrett about the bass, and so I thought I'd jump in really quick. I said, well, first let's record, we'll get it on tape. And this is what I call dumb but amusing. I met Barrett at the Berklee College of Music when I was a bass player and he was a drummer, and then I somehow became a comedian and he became a bass player. And now he is
see something.
he's played bass for much longer than I ever did. And
That's the first song you ever taught me?
Walking on the Moon?
No, that is the
Walking on the Moon is the first thing I
you taught
ever
me
taught.
Walking on the Moon. You taught me Message in a Bottle. Then you taught me some U2 song that is it?
I can't hear what you're playing.
Okay, well, it's not plugged in. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I think you taught me like 2 Police songs and a U2 song. And
I would have remembered just all Police songs, but
anyway.
So also before you signed on, Barrett, Nate and I were I was talking about how old we are. We are coming up on just about 20 years knowing one another
publicly.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys have known each other 20 years? Yeah.
Yes.
And that's crazy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's crazy. I haven't known you guys for anywhere near that long.
Under maybe just we were trying to work out. He walked into, I was dating Aiden at the time, and this is what I remember. He walked into the establishment she worked at where I was hanging out with her. It's called Laundry 101 in Madison, Wisconsin. And I don't remember if you needed change or internet access or a phone. Do you remember why you happened to wander into a laundromat?
I mean, there's a great chance that I walked in to do my laundry.
No, you
because
didn't have anything
I would have been
you.
on tour. Are you sure? I hadn't dropped off anything, wasn't picking up anything.
Not positive.
I don't
that
generally,
could be too.
Yeah, I don't generally just cruise laundromats. I generally am there because I'm doing laundry. And no, I'm serious. And I was on tour, and so that would have probably been it. But so when you're on tour, obviously you have to do laundry, unless you're just one of those people who's like, I'll just throw these things away and buy new things. That was
or
never
you're
me.
Bono and you have someone that just picks up your laundry.
Or you have someone doing that. Sure,
yeah.
sure. It was not that level of tour where we had,
You were opening for Depeche Mode.
Wardrobe and so on. We were opening for Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
That's right. Depeche Mode has that.
Yes.
The opener doesn't typically. The opener doesn't typically. But however, I was a little bit lazy in the sense that I would usually just drop it off and then like come back and get it, that evening or whatever like that. This is very exciting. I'm talking about laundry. I'm so sorry, guys.
I brought it up. No, that was my fault.
Like,
so anyway, you walk into the laundromat and you were very affable and kind, and I can pretend to be affable and kind and talking to you. I'm like, see, this is the kind of person I should be. It's the same thing when I see Barrett work a room and he talks to people. I'm like, that's what I should do instead of just going into my corner and like looking at people like, I hope nobody talks to me. Like,
so here's the funny thing. Yes, says the guy who gets on stage in front of people and just talks.
That's me talking. That's not me interacting. That's just me talking. That's easy.
Okay, fair point. But I still grant that you don't give yourself enough credit for that. But I want to point something out though. So it's interesting. I have friends, and to a person, they all say like when they're looking for a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever it may be, it's like, you find that person when you're not looking for them, right? Now, What's the point? I'm going to bring it around. The point is, some of my longest standing relationships and friendships and associations with people have been completely random when I wasn't like at a party where I'm supposed to meet people or whatever it is. We met at a laundromat. We've been in touch ever since. We've been hanging out. We hang out when we have the opportunity, when we're in the same city. You lived in the city for a while. I would get to come and hear you.
That's when we got to hang out the most, as we'd go get food.
Right. And now here I am chatting to you 20 some odd years later, like random association at a laundromat in Madison, Wisconsin, of all places.
Yep. That's
rad. That's cool.
Where do you live now?
That myself, I'm in Los Angeles. Well, technically I'm in Valencia, California, which is a suburb that's a little bit north of Los Angeles, of Six Flags,
I know where
Hey,
Six Flags is. Yeah.
that's where I am. I could
How far is your hike
well,
every day? For anybody that doesn't know, Nate is the drummer for the house band on The Voice on, is it NBC?
correct. Yes, it is.
And so that's a little hike, isn't it? What's your commute?
Well, you know, it's funny when I lived in Sherman Oaks, which is
Where I
closer
remember you from.
proximity wise, right? Closer proximity to Burbank and Studio City and so on. I would leave myself 45 minutes to get to work because the traffic going across town to get to work, that's how long it would take me. Out here, I leave myself 45 minutes to get to work just because I'm up the highway. So it's further, but I just cruise straight down the 5. I'm going to say it's a 30-minute commute, barring, you know, traffic.
Major
or
traffic.
whatever. Yeah.
So you make
not
me
bad.
think of when I lived there, when I worked downtown Los Angeles and lived in the valley somewhere. I don't remember which
Mhm.
specific, but if I left at 4 o'clock, I'd get home at 4:30. If I left at 5 o'clock, I'd get home at 6:30.
I had a drum tech that I used to work with on the show. His name is Steve-O, and Steve-O lived in Anaheim Hills at the time. And there were times when he would say, "Hey man, traffic's gonna be really bad. Do you mind if I cut out early?" And I would go, "Sure." So he would leave at 4:30, right? Meanwhile, I work until, let's say, 4:35, 6. We end at 6. I drive home. I'm home at 6:30. 7 o'clock, I'll get a text from him. Just got home.
Damn.
Yeah, no. That was a brutal, talk about brutal commutes. That was a brutal commute.
And I did not make a Jackass comment because when you say Steve-O, that's the first
know.
thought. That's the
Mine
Oh,
first.
you know, and it's
oddly
funny
enough.
because I've never watched Jackass, I don't make that association at all. What?
How do you not? It's the best goddamn show on television.
But isn't
I
it like
would-
just
don't know
people
if I'd go
like
that far.
shooting themselves in the foot with a nail gun and just like,
Okay.
hey, put the bowling ball in a sling and see how fast and hard you can hit me in my stomach with. Like, I don't need
Yes.
that in my life. No,
No.
I don't need that in my life.
Yes, you do.
I don't
Like
think I
I
do.
remember meeting you. I remember full on the first time I saw Jackass. It's when I was in college, or maybe just out of, and I was working in home health, taking care of 2 developmentally disabled gentlemen, and I would go live with them for 48 hours and cook their meals and make sure they got their meds. And they had gone to bed, and I was just sitting in the apartment doing nothing, and the phone rang, and I answered. It was my buddy Baxter who said, "Turn on MTV right now." And I couldn't tell you the date, but I just remember turning on the TV and seeing these idiots pushing each other in shopping carts into trees and just laughing and going, "What is this?" And I've loved them ever since. I mean,
Okay, so then here, you'll appreciate this. You'll appreciate this. I think if I can tell it right, and if I can get the names and places and locations correct here. So tell me who the various, like, who are the people? Johnny Knoxville, right?
Wee Man, Ryan Dunn, Preston Lacey. Is Ryan the one that was?
Is
Bam
there a
Margera?
skateboarder? Bam Margera.
Yeah.
He's a skateboarder, right?
Yeah, I think Ryan Dunn is the one that passed in a car accident, though.
Oh, but so Bam Margera, skateboarder, right?
Yep.
He has a band, or had a band, right?
He has an addiction is all he has now.
But there was a band called CKY.
Maybe.
Oh, come on. Really?
I don't know that.
Really?
I only
I
watched them
think-
hurt each other. I never
I
listened
think
to their
the
outside
band-
projects.
Well, then this is really letting the air out of my fun fact.
Okay. Sorry. I apologize.
Now I'm afraid that I'm giving like false information.
Okay.
I believe
We could always
either
Google
he-
after the fact.
Either he had a band, or maybe his brother had a band, and the band was called CKY. And then I was going to go, fun fact, one of the members of CKY lives at the top of my block, and he's a dude that I see like all the time. And I just thought that that'd be fun, but really I've taken this story absolutely nowhere because you didn't know the brother or the band.
Well,
You're certainly not going to
CKY
know
obviously
Darren. You're not going to know Darren.
did
'cause
well.
He's in CKY. Okay, how about this? Darren's wife is, okay, wait, do you know the movie? She's really cool. Do you know the movie Sleepaway Camp?
No.
Wow, we're off to a blistering start right now. Sleepaway Camp is a cult horror movie.
Oh, that's why I
Okay?
don't know it.
It's a
See, you
cult
talk
horror
about
movie.
not needing things in your life. I don't need horror in
Cult
my
horror
life.
movies. Well,
Yeah.
well, I only know it because it's a very widely known, evidently to everyone
But me.
but you. You
Barrett,
may
do
not
you
know
know
it
it?
either, Barrett. Do you know it? Sleepaway Camp?
I know of it.
Okay,
But
there you go. That's
I can't. I mean,
well,
I
it's
can't
okay.
separate it from the 5 or 6 other
Well,
murder,
this one in
horror,
particular,
gory things that
sure.
took place
This
in a
one
sleepaway
in
camp,
particular,
you know?
this particular one is very well known as like a cult horror movie, and
Mhm.
and in particular, the star of the movie was then a young woman. Now she's older because it's a little bit of older movie, but Felissa Rose. And so, just to put in perspective, she travels like the country making appearances at horror movie festivals. Like that's how well known the movie is. That's how well known
Nice.
she is. However, I've now named two people that I thought you guys would know, and I have swing and a miss on both. So one more reference that you guys don't know, and that's gonna be three strikes on me.
They're both gonna be like, "Oh man, my buddy Nate's on the show tonight. Let's go watch." And they're gonna, "Oh, and he brought us up," and we're gonna be like, "Who the fuck are these people?"
Yeah, that'll just make you and I look like the assholes, though. That's all it
I
does.
hope
Make
so.
us look
Well,
like
that's
the
actually
assholes.
probably the truth. Is that you and I are
Yeah.
the assholes?
And it's not reflective of them at all. What you made me think of it. Did either of you watch the documentary Val?
Yes, I just watched it the other night.
Yeah, it was fantastic and heartbreaking. But what you said about her doing horror festivals or
Yes.
conventions, I really liked what Val Kilmer said about those, where he said he used to judge actors and actresses like, oh, they go, he has the voice box now. He said they go do these things. He goes, but now I look at it as a way of meeting my fans and
Sure.
appreciate it. I thought
Yeah, that's true, because he's doing that. He's doing some of that towards the end now, right? Or not towards the end. I mean, towards the end of the documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting because in the one respect, I kind of felt bad for obvious reasons, but then in another respect, I mean, he seems to be very much at peace. Like he seems to be very much like in a good place spiritually and in terms of priorities and all of that. And I'm not going to say any more about it than that because I don't want to ruin it for anyone.
No,
who's happened to watch
it's worth a watch.
but it's good. Yeah, certainly worth a watch. You know, a documentary I just watched recently. It's Fran Lebowitz being interviewed by Scorsese, and it's called Pretend It's a City. I think it's either on, what's it on? Is it on Netflix or is it on? It's not Hulu. It's either on Netflix or it's on.
Well, we can look it up.
I feel like it's Netflix. Pretend It's a City. It's really good. And I'm not super familiar with Fran Lebowitz, like her other works. But whenever I've seen her speak, she's always very. Her insights are very informative and very profound in a way, sort of like in a way that Malcolm Gladwell is, but different. So yeah.
You know, my problem though, when you say Fran Lebowitz is, I'm a very stupid person, and I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But my mind automatically reverts to Animal House and Otter going and, swooping in. She just lost her fiance, and I think it was a kill. But like, who are we dating tonight? Fran Lebowitz, and she's, that's pretty
funny.
I think
funny.
of
So that's what you go. You don't know.
That's
like,
where I go. I go straight.
Okay,
to
so I'm not gonna call that a strike on my part. By no. I'm gonna say that's like a foul tip. That's like a foul tip. Fuck! Like makes contact.
This is no reflection on
tip.
You. None of this.
I'm still at the plate. I'm trying not to strike out.
Although I did reflection on me.
Who did I give you just a second? Well, Scorsese.
Yeah.
So that's one. That's a good one. You brought Val in. So yeah, no, I'm keeping track of like how many references I make that you guys are just like like that emoji.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen the Fran Lebowitz trailer.
Yes.
For the thing. I forget. I don't know what the streaming service is, right? It's Netflix or HBO, one of the
Where
two.
are you from, Barrett?
Where are you from? From Philly originally, but I was raised in Jersey, then came back to Philly just very recently.
Okay. The reason I ask is because you're East Coast. So Philly is an East Coast city. The documentary in large part centers around different sort of New York City things. Mm-hmm. Like if you're from New York City or if you're from an East Coast city, you'll sort of regret, but you'll relate to it. But particularly if you've spent time in New York, the title, I don't want to give it away, but she gives it away in the first couple of minutes of the thing. The title, Pretend It's a City, comes from this idea that she's talking about when she's walking around. She does a lot of walking. She doesn't have a car. She does a lot of walking. And she said that the thing that annoys her the most is people who are like either walking like 1 mile an hour, or they're just standing still in the middle of walking traffic because they're on their phone, because they're absorbed in their phone. Right. And she said, how about pretend it's a city? How about
Right.
pretend there are other people here
Right.
who
Yeah.
have places to go, who have things to do, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
pretend you're not the only person here. So I
Right.
thought that was very, it's good. It's really good.
Absolutely.
I can recommend it.
All right. Well, you've actually it's on. I'm about to go on a TV fast. I'm going to call it, because
Okay.
I've been watching TV, and Nathan and I talk about this a lot, and I've been watching it, and I'm like, these messages are just wrong. They're just wrong, and I feel like there's an arrogant part of me
Mhm.
that says, well, since I know what they're doing, then it won't work on me.
Right. You're not
But
susceptible.
that's not actually true. The awareness of being hypnotized doesn't stop you from being hypnotized. You know what I mean? And so there's a bunch of TV shows that I was watching. I'm like, oh, this is just terrible. The way they're teaching people how to handle relationships, and like all the
Well,
this
throw
is
some
your
names
fault.
out, because
Oh, I don't want to do that.
why?
Because then I'll start. Then you'll start to know all the shitty television I watch.
If it's not Real Housewives, I think you're okay.
Okay, so I won't mention that one. No, my point is
I need
not-
titles. I need a couple titles.
But my point
Yeah,
is
well,
not
I
that-
need titles. I need titles because I'm going to tell on myself if it's something that I watch. I'm gonna be like, oh man, I watched that show religiously.
Well, all right.
So
I'll get to
I'll
some
tell on
titles.
myself.
What I'm saying is that the point of my little diatribe is that
You're avoiding before
You know what? So when we used to play
the-
gigs in Boston, our sax player Mike Hamilton would take a solo, and if ever there was a song that any of us didn't know really well, but we were trying to solo on it, he called it skating the changes. Like you're skating
Yes.
the changes, and so he would do this. He would do this while we were playing. He's playing, and he would start going. That's him. So that's you right now, Barrett. You're skating
Yes.
the changes, man. You're skating the changes, bro.
we are asking for specifics, and you keep trying to hammer home your point, which we will listen to. We want to hear your point.
Well,
I'm curious as to what the garbage TV is.
My point is ultimately that I feel like the Fran Lebowitz show will not have a lot of weird subliminal, not subliminal, but just weird nonsensical stuff.
There's nothing nonsensical about her. In fact,
Right.
she's very concrete. She's very concrete. She's very matter of fact. She has very strong opinions that she shares very directly. And it is like I said, it's just funny. It's funny. Just whenever I meet or encounter someone, or even see in that case, because I don't know her, I've not met her, but whenever I come across someone who just sees the world from a different angle, like they've got an angle that's uniquely theirs. And I'm not going to sit here and try to quote you clever lines or whatever. Just watch it. It's a 6-part thing. Each episode, there's one that she sort of focuses on jazz and music, and it kind of does center around New York. But even if you're not from New York, you will still appreciate it.
I mean, New York was really my stomping ground for about 15 years.
Then you'll love it.
You'll
love it because she makes references to certain streets, and when I was a kid, I was told not to go down past whatever street number or whatever this and that, and she talks about. Yeah, it's very good. At one point, she says she was talking to her, like she was talking to her daughter or something like that, and she was encouraging her to move back to New York. And the daughter said, "Mom, no one can afford to live in New York. You can't afford to live in New York." And Fran Lebowitz says, "You know what? You're right. It's true. Everything's too expensive. Absolutely, like no one can afford to live in New York, and yet 8.5 million people do."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was one of the things back when I was a New York musician. I would go to. I was never really a New York musician. I was a New Jersey musician who worked in New York full time. Right.
Okay.
Like I did all my work in New York, and then I went home to Jersey. And I used to say to myself, God, nobody can afford to live here. Except half these broke motherfuckers that I know that I play with live here. And how do they do it? At the time, we're doing $75 gigs and $100 gigs back in the day, and yet they were paying their rent. And I was like, how?
Well, I didn't understand how you commuted, because you would tell me about the tolls and the fines and the bridges, and I'm like, how the fuck do you end up walk away with anything after paying the tolls?
Yeah, I mean, it got really bad once the tunnel went up to I think 15 or 16.
Yeah, see, that's $32 round trip.
Well, you only pay one way, but when I was going to Brooklyn the other day from Philly, and it was like $40. I was like, it was like, yeah, it was like $40 in tolls and 33 back, 40 there and 30 something back. And I was like, like for all that.
But are
to
those
be there for
tools
3
so
days.
like so I could be wrong. I could absolutely be wrong about this, but my understanding is that in some places, for example, in Ohio, the Ohio Turnpike that you pay for, in part, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of subsidizes their state tax. So like, even though
That's
I'm
all
paying this
tolls
money,
do, but it doesn't mean you get a lower state tax. It's literally it's what we had the Tea Party for, because taxation without representation. States with toll roads also have high taxes, and you sort of get fucked twice. It's very
do they
interesting.
really?
Like Illinois has toll roads, and you think you think Illinois taxes are cheap? No.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I really thought that toll roads, and I guess I'm exposing myself now. I thought that toll roads were meant to lower state tax burden, like on you.
It's supposed
or like
to.
sales tax or whatever it is.
It's supposed to, but I think it becomes like anything else, where once they get a taste of the money, they're like, wait a second, you're telling me we get this money and we can tax the citizens?
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. We have, California has California, we have like the highest, I don't know, we don't have the highest, but we have an extremely high sort of tax rate.
Well, and you also have not toll roads, but like bonus lanes where you can buy passes to drive in the fast lane, except that clogs up just like the rest of the freeway.
Now, how do you feel about Cali these days? I know a lot of people are heading out. Like apparently a lot of people are moving to Texas. Is this true?
Okay.
Like a lot of Californians are moving
seriously?
to Texas.
Okay, for real? For real?
That's what I've heard.
Real talk. You couldn't, let me hold on, let me start again, because I don't want to talk out of turn. Let's just say if I were to list the top 45 states that I would like to move to, Texas would not make that list. Okay, let's just put it that way. And the thing is too, it's like
not even Austin.
Austin is its own thing.
I know that's where
you can make the argument for Austin, but you're surrounded by so much other un-Austin. So it'll be very hard. It'll be very hard. It'll be very hard. But I would just say this, and without getting, I don't want to be, disrespectful like that. I shouldn't have said that. But people like to bash California. People like to bash California and, oh, you guys are so stupid. And look at how much a 1-bedroom costs in Burbank and to which I say, if you don't like California, good, don't move here. We have enough people. That's the first thing. And the second thing that I say is, it's almost like bashing California is like a sport to some people. Like
it's become that lately.
It's like people rag on California and it's like, what do you care, Missouri? Like, what do you care? You don't even live here. What's your vested interest in talking about how bad California is? You don't live here, and wherever you live, you seem to dig. So do that thing. I love California. I love California. I love Los Angeles. At one point, again, not to reference it, it's just fresh in my mind. It's fresh in my mind. Fran is talking about New York, and she has a lot of complaints about
Drescher or Leibowitz.
Leibowitz.
Okay.
And she's talking about New York and the certain things that she doesn't like or does like, whatever. And she said, people suggest sometimes, Fran, well, why don't you leave? And she says, where would I go? Like, where would I go? Like, in other words, she is so New York and she is so all about the city that it's like no other, like, what's she going to move to, Poughkeepsie? Like, what's she going to move to Tallahassee? You know what I mean? Like, no, she lives in New York City. So that's kind of how I feel about LA. I love Los Angeles. And I feel like, where would I go?
Well, you're also not in Los Angeles. You are 30 miles away.
Be that as it may.
So Burbank versus everything I read is that, and when I was there, it was pretty fucked up, but all right. But that when I came back the last time, and this was 3 years ago, and visited you.
Yeah.
I could see the difference. Like, homelessness has gotten way out of control, and
it's a problem.
The solution seems to be, oh, they're homeless, leave them alone. Whereas, I'm like, put them on buses and fucking ship them out. Like, I'm a cold, heartless person.
It's a problem, but it's not a big enough problem that I'm going to leave all the other things that are amazing about living here.
Right, like your job for one thing.
Hey, sure, that's great. So are 85-degree Christmases are wonderful. Not having snow is wonderful. The
See,
fact
you're
that I
talking
can
about
go to
things
the
I like.
beach, the fact that it's then you're
I like
not
snow.
Point of fact, that being the case, we have Big Bear, right? So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
you
we have
go-
everything.
just go
We have
to Mammoth.
beaches. We have Mammoth. We have beaches. I'm sounding like the friggin' California Tourist Board, but like I said, if you don't like it, people's don't move here because we got enough people.
What if okay, you said
Um,
45 states you would rather, but what if production
I was
picked up
being
in
I was being facetious.
No,
but,
I know.
But Texas, but
what
right
if
now
production
in
picked up and
particular,
went to Atlanta?
um,
Because a lot of production is in Atlanta. What if your show picked up and said, all right, we're going to Atlanta, we're getting tax breaks?
I like more about Atlanta than most other things in Texas, if that's the comparison.
No, just like, do you think you could,
I would if you told me that the show is moving to Atlanta, I don't have an issue. Like I don't see Georgia and Texas. I mean, they're both southern states, but I don't see them as one and the same by any stretch. And right now, at this exact moment, 3 states I'm definitely not moving to are Nashville, Florida, and Texas. That's the bottom line.
Nashville's a city.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Tennessee, Florida. I said, you know why I said that? I said that because Pearl is there. Whenever I think of Tennessee, I know, right? Whenever I think of Tennessee, I think of Pearl, I think of Nashville. Sorry. But yeah, Tennessee, Florida, and Texas are 2 places that I'm not trying to go right now. But yeah, I don't have a problem with Atlanta. In fact, I like Atlanta because I know where I can go get a good game of chess. In the middle of the city, there's Woodruff Park. And that's where all the dudes hang out and play chess. So that's a good thing to me. It's also why I like San Francisco. I can go to Fifth and Market, get a good game of chess. What are other cities where I know? DC, I know where to get a good game of chess. Yeah. So
let me tell anyone that's still listening for any reason another story no one will care about. Nate asked me if I played chess when he was in Milwaukee at the Marcus Amphitheater, and I said yeah, because my roommate and I played chess. But what we did is we played just sort of
checkers.
like stare at the board chess, move your pawn, stare at the board some more. Like we didn't know what we were doing, but we played and we had fun. And so I said, yeah, I play. And I show up and I sat down and started doing them. I should move my pawn. All right, I'm going to move it here after 10 minutes of staring at the board. And then Nate goes, boom, your move. I'm like, what the fuck? You did that in 2 seconds. And so I took 10 minutes to stare at the board and moved another. I mean, he had me in like 5 moves. Like when I said I played chess, I meant I played like slow, ponderous, low level chess. Whereas he played speed. I have all these moves and deep blue IBM.
No.
Oh, you
the rumors of my chess abilities have been greatly exaggerated. But you know what I will say is this. So here's a fun thing. So I get a message from one of the producers on our show. His name is Clyde, and Clyde messages me. He texts me. He has a daughter. Her name is Sam, and she's lovely. They're both lovely. Clyde's family is amazing. So he texts me. Sam has recently really gotten into chess. Can you recommend any books or, whatever? And I basically text back like, oh, that's amazing. It's a great game. It's incredible. And I sent him some books and I pointed out to him, I said, oh, by the way, I taught Miles, my son, my 21-year-old. I taught Miles when he was
That's how young. Fucking old we are. Oh my God.
Yes,
Miles is 21.
21, bro.
Oh my
College
God.
junior right now.
I might as well just apply for Social Security.
He would have been 1 or something when we met each other. Like, he would have. So
he was a toddler and a kindergarten, first grader when I would come over and visit you.
Correctamundo. So he's in college. But the point is, it made me go search up, like, because I knew I had like some video of when I taught him. Right. And so I found this video of me basically teaching him to play chess. And I'm like narrating it. I'm like, and now the senior Morton will make his move. Challenging and I said it on the thing. This is why I know it. He was 3.5. I taught Miles to play chess when he was 3.5 years old. I'm sitting there at our chess table and I'm playing 3.5. That kid now crushes me. Like there was a time when like my C game could beat his A game. And now it's the other way around. Now his C game beats my A game. He crushes. He's so good. All he does is play all the time. Yeah.
This is how pathetic a person I am. As you are saying that, I realized in my head, my connection with my 7-year-old son, whereas I currently do fairly well beating him at Mario Kart and Mario Brothers, but he's starting to pass me already at 7 at Mario Brothers, or as he calls it, Super Mario Bros. So here you are talking about the sport of kings, chess, and intellectual, and I'm like, And I'll play Mario Kart with my son.
Oh yeah, but
I can still beat him with that.
Oh, but there's plenty of other issues with Miles. He happens to be a good chess player and he's doing some things good.
I'm just saying the way you raised your son
you know.
as opposed to the way that I'm fucking up mine. That's
You're
the way
not.
I'm looking at it. Is the
Stop
way
that. Stop
Oh,
that.
man.
Although I will say this, I will say on the subject of chess, I did realize that I taught Miles that young and I sort of forgotten it. And so as of the last several days, it has become a priority because I have, like, as you know, about 37 kids. And so I've started teaching the 4-year-old, the 6-year-old, the 9-year-old already plays. She knows how to play. And the 15-year-old knows how to play. So he and I have been playing lately.
You can remember all their ages?
And I just, not their names.
Okay, fair enough.
So I do. I literally call them the 21, the 19, the 15, the 9, the 5, the 6,
Hey,
rather,
15.
and the 4.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. I do. But yeah, no, it's a good game, man. It's a good game.
So we'll do a little a shift here for a moment.
Sure.
Um,
As you, by the way, let's just point out you brought on a musician as a guest, and we've talked nothing about music.
Well,
that's what
actually,
I was
Barrett and
gonna
I
say.
talked. We said, I asked Barrett, like, what topic do you think would be good? And he gave me a great one. And we have yet to introduce it. So
Well,
Go for it.
I mean, well, it's interesting because somebody actually just called me for a couple of gigs, and you made me think of a bass player that I know who's also a chess teacher, because I might not be able to do them, and I just remembered that he might, and I wasn't actually thinking about him as a suitable
is
replacement.
that the guy I met at your wedding?
No, because
Oh.
I don't know him like that.
Oh, I met 3 bass players at your wedding, and I wasn't sure
this-
which was which.
Is this sort of a known guy? Is he like is he a dude that I would know?
No. I mean, I doubt it. He's just a cat who lives in Jersey City and teaches chess. He's a good bass player though. He's fun. But I just got a call for a gig that a series of gigs I might not be able to do. And you made me think that I should actually call him to do them. So I was thinking, who should I call? And I wasn't thinking of him. But now chess, the association led to him.
Yes.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
So with your gaggle of children,
Yes.
what does your let's talk about music for a moment. What is your average work? How many days a week do you work at The Voice? And what does your average work day look like? And how do you find time to balance? Well, I suppose the other question is your work artistically fulfilling? Like, does it fulfill the creative side of what you do? Like, part of what we do as musicians is technical, and part of it is creative. And so you can do many gigs that are fun and interesting and challenging, but not creatively engaging, right? And still be interesting. So I guess the question is, how do you balance your work and home life?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you balance your work and creative life with family life? And what does your average work day look like?
Okay. Wow. Glad you're not asking giant sweeping generalization sort of questions where I have to, I have to deliver a speech or something, a soliloquy now. Okay. So let me see if I can remember what you've asked. In terms of, first, let me point out something. I want to say something really quickly. I have told this story 700 times. So anyone who is listening to me, who has ever heard me on another podcast, you can go to the fridge and get something out, have a drink. Come
Usually
back
they'll have
in
earbuds in as they listen.
Oh, so then they still hear. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
they'll
well,
be
then
taking you to the fridge.
Okay, you can take the ear pods out and you can tune in and watch the first 5-10 minutes of the Fran documentary and then come back. So when I was I guess in my mid-late 20s, I was on tour. I was out here in Los Angeles, and I went and I hung out with a buddy of mine named Tony DiAugustine. And I tell this so many times that I wonder if any people who know him come up to him and who have maybe heard me in a podcast talk about him and be like, "Yo, man, I heard listen to Nate. He was talking all about you." I don't know. I digress. So I'm out in LA. I'm visiting Tony, and we're hanging out. And I say, "Tony, what's the hardest thing about being a professional musician? What's the hardest thing about being a professional musician?" And I'm thinking he's going to say, reading, work on your reading, or your time, getting your time solid, getting your time solid, or studio recording shops, or as drummers, independence. Tony said, balance. And I said, balance? I said, a balance between what? And he said, a balance between everything. And at the time, as I said, I was probably 26 years old. And I kind of walked away from that conversation going, balance between everything? What is he talking about? I don't get it. Every successive year, I know more and more. And that answer to that question becomes more and more profound, because it's a balance between gigs you love versus the gig that pays more money. It's a balance between being on tour and earning money versus being able to be home and enjoy the fact that you're making any money. It's a balance between having time off versus not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm broke. I gotta get work, right? All of it. A balance between, calling the guy you think might in turn call you for a gig versus calling your boy who needs a gig, right? Actually, technically, that's not a balance. For me, I'm always calling my boy who needs a gig. I've never called anyone because I thought they would in turn call me for a gig. I've never done that. Whatever. But so bringing that all around to your question, which centers on balance. In terms of I'll give you the short answers, and then I'll give you the bigger picture. In terms of my day-to-day schedule, what's your day-to-day schedule look like? Well, I don't work a normal job. So my day-to-day schedule varies radically. It could be today we're blowing the dust. It's just the band. Today it's just the band, and we're blowing the dust off of 18 songs that we've played before. Okay, well, what's that day look like? That day looks like a noon call time at a rehearsal studio with no cameras, no coaches, no contestants. And for us to blow the dust off of 20 songs takes 3.5 or less hours. And then we're on the way home before rush hour even starts. Okay, conversely, there are days where it's the band shooting reality. Okay, we're shooting reality. That means it's us, contestants, coaches, potentially a guest mentor, cameras, lighting, crew, all of it. And that day might be a day that starts at 10 a.m. and ends at 8 p.m. Or it could be a day where we're doing all of that. And because we've slotted in a day off for Thanksgiving, this happens every year, by the way, in our fall season, because we've slotted in a day off for Thanksgiving, it means that we have to do twice the amount of work the day before. So if we were going to have recorded on Thanksgiving, that means we're recording like the releases for streaming, the actual singles, we're recording. So after that 10 o'clock to 8 o'clock day, we probably start a little earlier. We probably start at 8 so that we can get out by, what did I say, 10, 8, 6, let's say. 6, we're going to Henson Recording Studios, and we're doing studio recordings for X number of songs to stream. So on a day like that, we're starting at 8 and we're ending at, let's say, 3 or 4 in the morning. Now, that's a rare day. But my only point is, depending on where we are in the season, the workload that we have to accomplish, and the involvement of coaches, contestants, crew, and all of it, that it means we can have anywhere from a day of work that feels like a day off to a day of work that feels interminable. Now, even on those interminable days, I need to point this out. And here's another story that I've told oftentimes. I have a buddy named Reggie. He's a bass player. You may know him, Barrett. Do you know Reggie Hamilton?
He's a New York guy?
Nope. He's out here. He's LA. He might have been in New York for a minute, but I've only known him.
I don't know, but I know the name.
Sure.
I know the name, Reggie, but I don't know him.
Sure. When I met Reggie, he was at the time he was on tour with Seal. And so he did that for many years.
See, when I saw Seal, it was Abe Laboriel Jr.
on
with Seal. He toured with Seal.
Reggie's a bass player.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. I'm dumb.
Yeah,
I'm looking at Barrett and I'm thinking drums.
No, pay attention. Look, I said, what?
You
I said
did.
He's a bass player.
I already said I'm dumb.
He's not no. I'm making the fact that I mime the instrument that I'm talking about. He plays bass. It's like, does he play jazz? No, he plays electric. Like, is he a fusion guy? Is he a fusion guy? No.
That's funny.
Seriously, that's what I do all the time. You don't do that, Barrett? Does he plays guitar? He plays guitar. Does he play guitar? Does he play rock? No, man, he's a jazz guy. Okay, cool.
God, I've never seen that. That's fucking hilarious.
I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone with Reggie, and I'm in Vegas, and I'm on the phone with Reggie, and I'm in my hotel room, and I say, "Hey, Reggie, I have to go, man. I have to go downstairs so I can go across and do the Cher gig." He said, "Get to." I said, what? He said, you get to go downstairs, not have to. You get to go downstairs and walk over and do the Cher gig. So what's the point? The point is, even on those days when it's 4 a.m. and I'm bleary eyed and I'm still tracking and we're working and working and working, I always remind myself, I get to do this.
Yeah.
I get to do this. I get to do this. I think about the days when I was at Berkeley and we had recording sessions that started at midnight. Recording session where 11:30, you're going over to set your drums up for a session that goes midnight to 6 a.m. And I loved it. And I wasn't getting paid. I did it because I love it, right? So now, bringing this all the way back to your other inquiries, in terms of creativity, would it be cool if we recorded originals? I mean, yeah. Would the band be seen as more than just a cover band? I mean, yeah, yes. The Roots are. They're an original band. People don't see them as just a cover band. They do the stuff. Is that something that is grossly missing from my life? Nah, because as a drummer, I'm afforded the opportunity where, like, if I were playing, I said this to the guys just the other day, if I were playing these songs with the original artists, it would be a lot, I have a feeling anyway, more confining. Because a lot of artists, as we know, are like, I missed that vocal because you didn't play the drum fill that's right there. You didn't play the same drum fill, or you didn't play the same this or that.
Let me interrupt for 1 second.
Please.
I'm going to get this wrong, but there's a famous Sting quote where he had Vinnie Colaiuta as his drummer for a while, and they were in the studio, and Vinnie did something, and Sting said, "Hey, that was fantastic. I'm sure the 3 drummers buying the album will really like that. Now, could you do something for the audience?" Like
right. I have another funny story about that too. Anyway, well, yeah, exactly. So, but as drummers, we do have a certain amount of leeway. You know, pick it up a bang, or sing it to the bang, or whatever it is. And so I don't feel like, if I were an artist and I was, let's say, I mean, I'm just making an example. This doesn't really fit anyone that's in our band, but let's say I'm a background vocalist, right? But really, I really want to be an artist.
So you're Sheryl Crow.
If you're
Sheryl Crow singing for Michael Jackson,
because,
but you want to be Sheryl Crow.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that. Right. So I've never had that. I'm not dying to be an artist. And I've always been happy to sort of play songs. And so the gig that I do on the show, I don't walk away missing anything creatively, because I am allotted a certain amount of leeway in terms of the fills I play and all this, that, the other. And sometimes we're playing a song and maybe the original doesn't have a tom groove on the bridge, but I think, you know what, it's a 90-second performance. We don't have time for that time to go by with no drums. I'm going to play this tom thing. And so that's kind of where my creative thing happens. If I ever do, sorry, I'm over answering, but if I ever, but you ask a big question. If I ever do feel that, like if I ever do, like, you know what, here, perfect example. There was a point when I did feel that way. It was not long after I had moved to LA and I was playing with lots of artists, and I was being told by artists, that's too rockin'. Okay, the groove you're playing is funkier than what the actual thing is. Can you straighten it out a bit? Okay, you know, you're too loud, or you're too this, you're too that. And so what I did was I was just like, you know what? I'm going to write a record, and I'm not going to put any sort of box or parameters on it whatsoever. I'm going to write what I want. I'm going to write about what I want. I'm going to have the feels I want. I'm going to have the fills I want. I said feels and fills to make the distinction. And I did that, and I recorded a record. It's a record that I released, I don't even know, in 05, something like that, 06. And
can it be found anywhere?
Like on my website.
Oh, so you didn't bury it, you didn't hide it, you didn't like
No, in fact, embarrassingly enough, that's a full box of them over there on top of that book, on top of that shelf. That's a full box, right? So yeah. Well, yeah, it's on my website.
Anybody who made it this far, Nate will send you a free CD if you reach out.
I've already done
to
that.
him.
I've actually, believe it or not, I actually already did that, because I had a stack of them, and I had, those are like that. I don't think that box is quite full. It might be. But at one point I just posted, I haven't done it recently. I just posted on my site, like, anyone who wants a free CD, send me your address. And I did. And I just sent it off because to me, it's more important to have 100 more CDs that I did floating around out there than sitting on my shelf. Right.
Yeah.
So
is it streaming anywhere? Did you ever put it up on those services?
I I'm not sure how it worked because it came out before streaming was streaming. So it was on CD Baby. It still might be. And so when CD Baby, when streaming came in, if they had like a sort of a offshoot streaming thing,
I think you have to go check boxes to say, please put my stuff on there. Like if you still have your CD Baby account, you can log in and check some boxes and then I'll do it for you.
Maybe I'll check. But I mean, if I may, like streaming, like, I mean, people who get 11.5 million streams aren't making money on streaming.
No, and it's not for money. It's just because, like you said, it's out there.
I just mean it's not worth my. I mean, I do hear your point.
We've interrupted you, but so you put out your own album and that satisfied you, or
okay.
how did that?
I guess. Well, I mean, at that time it satisfied me, and that's the only time I felt that way. Is my point. That's the only time I felt like. And I think in part, to bring it back around to the show on The Voice, I think in part it's because what I was saying before, which is that playing I don't know, fill in the blank, playing a Reba McEntire song on The Voice isn't the same as being the drummer in Reba McEntire's band. The scrutiny is going to be far greater on you if you're the drummer in her band as to your accurate representation of the parts. That said, there is that idea. I'm rambling. There is that idea of.
That's okay. I got a story when you're done.
Okay, I'm done. I'm bringing it in for a landing right now. There is that thing of earning the trust of an artist. I'm sure you've experienced this, Barrett, where it's like you get on the gig and they're like, that ain't right. No, you should listen to that song again. All right, cool. And then like 3 months in, they go, oh yeah, okay, he's cool. We're good. And then at that point, you're good. You get a certain amount of leeway. Yeah. You can just be Barrett. Right. What's your story, Nate?
I haven't told this story in forever, so if I stumble or fuck up, I apologize. But you said Thanksgiving and how you double down because everybody schedules a day off for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
When I lived in Los Angeles, I worked behind the scenes in film production. I worked as what's called a site rep, where for anybody listening, sometimes you build a set on a soundstage so it looks like an office. Sometimes you just go to an office building after hours and then film at the office building and it looks like an office. Or you could do that for anything, for a car lot. You can bake. So that's what I worked for, real locations. We had office buildings, and if they just wanted to film something but not build it on a soundstage, they would use a practical location. So working on a movie, not going to name it, not going to get myself in trouble by calling out anyone, but
you're doing a Barrett.
Everybody, well, Barrett won't embarrass himself. I'll embarrass myself all fucking day. I'll say flat out the shit I watch. I'm saying I don't want to name names and say this guy was an asshole or this person fucked up, because the story sort of involves a fuck up. Had a very good actor in it that I'll tell you guys off air who it was, that had memorized like a 1-page speech, which is a big deal. It's like this long soliloquy. Well, he shows up the day before Thanksgiving prepared to go, and the writer comes in and goes, okay, I changed everything. And he's like, but I memorized what was in the script. He's like, yeah, rewrote it last night. So the entire crew that morning, it was the day before Thanksgiving, it was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and everybody's like, all right, we're going to do a quick 10-12 hour day, and everybody goes home, just bang it out, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Everybody goes home, gets up for Thanksgiving. Turned into an 18-hour day. Like we were there just because he didn't have the speech memorized. And when you see the movie, and again, I'll tell you after what the movie is, you notice that what was supposed to be a single camera speech turns into an edit between him giving the speech and a different scene that's sort of happening concurrently, because it was the only way they could get it, because he just could not make it through the speech. They would have to do this heavily edited, here's a sentence. Okay, give me the cue. It was like a Marlon Brando cue card thing. So I get home wiped out, because when you're doing 12-hour days and then you hit an 18-hour one at the end, I just got home and fucking crashed. I don't know what time it was. I just gone. And all I remember is waking up because there was I don't think there was a knock on my bedroom door. I'm almost positive my bedroom door was open, and I just sort of like wake up like, what? Like someone had asked me a question, and there's a police officer standing in the doorway to my bedroom. And I'm like, huh? And he's like, could you come out to the living room, please? I'm like, okay. And I get up in my underpants and stumble out. And as I get up, I see, reds and blues all over the walls and in the apartment. And I just sort of go out, and they're all out in front of my apartment complex. And the officers are like, were you aware we've been in your apartment for the last 20 minutes? I'm like, no. He's like, were you like, I think he thought I was on drugs, but I told him, look, I just did an 18-hour day or something. He said, yeah, well, your roommate tried to commit suicide and I can't remember, her boyfriend or the guy she was seeing couldn't get into the apartment because he pounding on the door and I was asleep. I sleep with a noise machine too, a white noise machine. And so he called the cops and the fire department and an ambulance, and they all got into the apartment. They got her and they ushered her out. And then at some point after all of this, they said, hey, what's this closed door? And opened it. And that's where they just saw, just completely wiped out. And I
Wow.
probably shouldn't tell this story any further, but I will, because I already wrote about it in the very first book I wrote. I probably shouldn't have said this, but it happened. They were like, all right, well, we got your roommate, bye. And I just sort of stood there like in my underpants. All right. Shit. I suppose I should see if her cell phone's here, and and this is the day of flip phones. This is not smartphones with fingerprints and Face ID. This is a flip phone. So I open it up and I hit address book and I type M, and mom pops up, and I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do this. And I hit dial on mom, and it's, like I said, 4, so it's probably 7 a.m. on the East Coast where her parents lived. And like, phone rings and rings and rings and picks up, and I'm like, hi, is this whoever? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, there's no real easy way to tell you this. Everything's fine. I'll tell you that. As far as I know, everything's fine, but I'm your daughter's roommate, and she just left in an ambulance. The police woke me up and had to take her out. She tried to take her life. She made an attempt on her life. And there was a pause, and then the mom went, again, thanks, and hung up. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess that's how that rolls. And then I went back to bed and went back to sleep.
Dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. That's a Thanksgiving you will never forget.
Yeah, well, I did forget until you said Thanksgiving and double shift, and I'm like, holy shit, I have not thought of that story in fucking forever. And here's why I say I shouldn't tell that end part of the story, because I wrote it in my memoir or whatever. I wrote stories of my life, and because I had forgotten all about her. And I hope she's not watching right now, because she was a sweetheart. She was a nice person, but I move on with your life, and I forget people. And then she friended me on Facebook. She's like, Nathan. I'm like, holy shit, I forgot about you. Oh shit, I hope you don't read that story about what your mom said when you tried to kill yourself. I didn't use her name or anything, but I just felt really bad that she might somehow stumble, because I assumed that she forgot who I was, just like I forgot who she was. Not by any I disliked you, or like, as if you dislike someone, you're gonna fucking remember them. No, she was a nice person. We just went different paths, and I assumed that she, like, oh, there was that guy I lived with in California, like, we're just roommates. And yeah, so I hope she's not watching.
If she ever were to bring it up, you could just say, like, no, that was the other roommate that tried to commit suicide that other Thanksgiving, the other year, whose other mom I called. That's if not you. Look at the That's book, not you.
There are no dates in that book. I didn't say this date, this year. No, that was the year before the year. All my roommates try and kill themselves. It was my fault. You tried to kill yourself because of me. They all do.
There you go. Done.
I mean, my guess is if that's how her mother responded, that's how her mother responds to her too, because my guess is she's a frequent flyer on that thing, and it's probably been going on for quite some time, and she knows exactly how her mother feels about it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's my guess, because she won't be mad at you. She'll just be,
Well, I wasn't worried about her being mad at me. I was more like, I wish I didn't put out that her mom had responded like that. But then again, she's known her mom her whole life, so I'm pretty sure she knows how her mom is.
Wow. Sorry, Barrett. Are we keeping you awake, man? What's going on?
I woke up like 5:30 this morning, but don't take it, don't take it personally. It's not because you guys are boring me to tears with these riveting stories.
Yes.
Well, I want to ask you a question. I do want to ask you a question. This was going to be the topic of what I wanted to talk about with you, and we've already hit an hour.
By the way, every podcast that I've ever done, people, I say, okay, how much time you need? Oh, 45 an hour. And I always just go, all right. Like dream on if you think this is going to be an hour. Okay, go on.
Well, the whole idea of what we had thought we'd talk about was cancel culture, and people say just something completely in passing, but it gets taken out of context. And then suddenly it's like, NBC is getting called. Did you hear what Nate said? Or even if not that, it's so out of control where, hey, Nate was on a podcast with this other guy and this other guy said this. And like, I never wanted to put you in a position of that. And I'm just wondering if that's in the back of your mind, or because as I said up front, you were like the nicest, but you even backed off. You mildly made a joke about Texas and then walked it back and said, I'm just kidding. Was that because of just who you are? Or is there a fear of everybody is out to get everyone? Because I didn't want to put you in any position where, I made an off-color joke and now,
I'll tell you what, Nathan. So here's the thing. So I did a magazine article when I was in my high school garage band, my high school rock band, Akamili. And we lived in our little Columbia suburb right between Baltimore and DC. And we did this article and we were like, oh my gosh, our local little suburban rag is going to do an article on us. And they sent a photographer and they interviewed us on all of this. And Columbia was a planned community. And the interviewer is interviewing us and he's recording it or whatever. And at one point he says something about, how do you feel about Columbia, whatever. And I kind of doing my thing and I kind of say, well, I think that at its heart, it was a great idea, but now it's kind of become something not that. Okay, well, what do you mean? Well, I think it was meant to be a planned community that was diverse and, there was a lot of equity and so on. But I think that now, certain things have happened in terms of how expensive it is to live here, so on and so forth. I think certain areas of the community can no longer afford to be here, blah, 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 blah. So what areas do you mean? Well, I don't know, certain minorities, I noticed that there are fewer minorities. Would you say that there's a racial component to that? And I said, I forget what I said exactly, but I said something like, I guess there's a connection, something along those lines. Article comes out, big, like bold letters at the top of one of the paragraphs. Nathaniel Morton calls Columbia racist. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, no. And so from that point forward, so we're talking high school, right? So I don't care how, I'll put out there how old I am. So that would have been 34 years ago. I'll be 50 at the end of the year.
Wait a second.
So that would have been.
We've known each other 20 years. So you mean I met you when we were 14?
No, boss. 30 some odd years ago is when I was in high school.
I'm trying to change the timeline here so we're not as old as we are. Did you
I almost joked. I almost said that when you said it. When you said like, oh, we've known each other like 20 some odd years. I was going to go, yeah, we met when we were 5.
Yeah.
But so yes. So ever since that happened, it's made me pretty sensitive to what I say and how I say it and when I say it and in what context I say it. So even though quote unquote cancel culture didn't exist back then, oh my God, you took a quote and sort of really took it way out of context and whatever did exist back then. So that's made me sort of cognizant of that. Now,
did you push back and say, I did not say it's a racist community. I insinuated it, but I.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. Nah, I just, like I said, it just showed me how, if something is taken out of context, it can definitely, it can burn you. So in terms of, flash forward today, now, yes, you can definitely say things and lose gigs or lose, and when I say gigs, I mean jobs. I don't mean literally paying gigs, but, you can be a big country music star one day and then not the next day. You can be, a NASCAR driver one day or whatever that guy was in, truck series or whatever, and then not.
Well, I think that's an extreme example because the country singer was dropping the N-bomb, whereas I'm just talking like they will take any like let's go to Jeopardy. This is not Nate Morton speaking to anybody listening to the audio version. The Jeopardy guy, I read the bullshit he said and it like nothing. It was literally nothing. And he lost his Jeopardy gig for suggesting like sometimes he said something about frumpy women and I don't remember, but it was nothing horrible. It was no racial slurs. That's what I say is like anything can be.
So here's the thing. I think that everything is, I think that these are all case by case issues. So in other words, there's a guy who recently during a baseball broadcast mocked an Asian.
I laughed my ass off.
Right. Well,
I laughed. Barrett, you know what he's talking about?
No idea.
Shohei Ohtani was coming to bat, and Shohei Ohtani is basically like Babe Ruth and Nolan Ryan combined. He is an outstanding pitcher and an outstanding hitter. He might even, I don't follow baseball, but he might even lead the league in home runs right now. And so he's coming to bat, and one of the commentators says to the other, so, what do you think the, Detroit should do about, pitching here to Shohei Ohtani? And he basically mocked an Asian accent.
Oh, I'll say his response. Tell me what he said. He said, oh, must be very careful or something like that.
Right. So that's not okay.
So wrong. No, it's not. But I still laugh my ass off because I'm a horrible person.
Well, here's the thing. So I'm going to give you two examples. So he apologized immediately. Like the next time Shohei Ohtani came up to bat.
Yeah. Well, he had to. There were people in his
because I'm sure
saying,
people were like,
"Yeah,
you're out of here," whatever. But he apologized or whatever. So I believe there is room to make a mistake, and I believe that there is, like I said, I think it's case by case. Though I think that you, in many cases, should be allowed to apologize, and you should be allowed. You shouldn't, everything you say shouldn't mean your job hangs in the balance. Now, having said that, that particular guy has a history of those kinds of remarks. At one point when he was a player, I believe, he said, female commentators, no, what did he say? I don't want a female in the room with me when I'm naked unless she's on top of me or I'm on top of her, right? So these are the kinds of things. So in other words, when you look at a history, then you can kind of go like, maybe this guy, this is not an isolated event. So
isn't what he just said though? Because I've always been confused by that. Isn't what he said just sort of a really shitty way of saying why are women allowed in the men's locker room? Because I don't think there are any male reporters allowed in female locker rooms. It just seems to be an accepted thing.
Okay, but you have to take into account the history of the relationship of men and women. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, and I'm going to get to this, I'm going to get to another example in a second. The other thing is, it's to say it's a shitty thing, I think undersells it. I think it shows a highly misogynistic and condescending way that a guy looks at and treats and views women.
Yeah, fair enough. I wouldn't argue that.
Right. You forgot the cheese on my cheeseburger. That's a shitty thing. Damn it. That's shitty. This guy is a different level. And so anyway, I don't mean to go in on the dude, but I guess my point is that on a case-by-case basis. So for example, I'm a big tennis fan. I'm watching Boris Becker. Sorry, I'm not watching Boris Becker. Sorry, I'm watching tennis, and Boris Becker is commentating, and he commented on it's a men's singles match. They cut to one of the players' boxes, and in the box, if anyone is listening or doesn't know tennis or whatever, in the box is like your coach, your trainer, maybe a family member, maybe your spouse, right? So the guy's spouse is there, and Boris Becker says words to the effect of, well, they say the most beautiful women come from Belgium. I can't comment on that specifically, but she certainly is very pretty, right? So outwardly, it's like, what's the big deal? Why is that weird? Well, in the context of a tennis match, you're not really there to remark on how aesthetically pleasing a player's spouse is. That's not the context. That's not the place for it. And you're on a TV and you don't know her. So I listened once because they were debating this. They were talking about it on ESPN radio. I listen almost exclusively to sports talk radio. So they were discussing it. And some guys call in and they're, yeah, that's what's up with this country, and blah, 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 and people are too easily offended. And to a person, they're all talking about how everyone's overreacting and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. One person, I think, basically said, hey, it's not okay. Got to be more aware. Got to be more in the climate we live in. You have to err on the side of caution. Now, what struck me as glaringly obvious, all the callers calling in going, this country, snowflakes, too sensitive. All men.
Yeah.
All men. Not a single woman. And so that's what I meant when I mentioned about the locker room thing. In terms of men being in a locker room of women, no, they're not. You're right. But in terms of think about the.
I'm not saying they should be. I don't think men should be in there. I just don't. I know that me personally having a small penis, I would be uncomfortable if a bunch of women were walking around like laughing and giggling at me. This is just an insecurity. So that's why I said it was a shitty way of him saying.
Stop it.
I'm mostly serious.
I want to.
Barrett's seen my
stay on top of it.
penis.
The thing is, you made me lose a train of thought, bastard.
You're thinking about my penis.
I am now. Now, thank you.
You're welcome.
The point that I was making was simply that because some of the guys who were calling in were saying like, well, what does that mean if a woman says a guy is attractive? You know, it's a different dynamic. You have to view the history of the relationship of
I absolutely agree with you.
So anyway,
I have a joke in my act that is very serious where I get catcalled by gay men, and I find it flattering. And I say flat out, if a guy catcalls a woman, I get that it's different. The guy might think like, oh, I'm just saying that you're attractive, baby. But I talk about the difference between demeaning but when a guy catcalls a guy, it's flattering because that means maybe, I get it. You're right. There is a different dynamic.
Now, you asked about canceling people and so on. And yeah, I think there's a bit much of that going on. And in general, if I could just really put a button on it, in general, yes, I think we live in a very high let's cancel culture, and a very high degree of that rather. And I don't always agree. And I think that there are instances where someone should be allowed to simply apologize. Now, in my personal context, sure, I make sure that when I try my best to be sensitive to things, you know. I don't want to say something that's going to offend someone if I think there is the chance that I might. Now, you're a comedian. Like, you get paid to stand up on stage and tell jokes and offend people if that's what you so figure. And you know, I love it when I see comedians sometimes and they'll say something and the crowd will go, ooh, and the comedian will go, oh, I guess you didn't know there would be jokes here tonight. Like, so I get that.
Right.
I get that's a totally different thing.
But there's also a difference, I think, between someone that, like, I have a thing, I don't want to offend people when I'm on stage. I actively do not. Also, everybody is offended by something. There's nothing you can do about it. And there's a great comic. What's Drew Michael? Drew Michael had a great bit that I loved, so I give him full credit for this. I'm gonna fuck it up. I'm completely paraphrasing. This is Drew Michael. He has a great bit that I'm gonna paraphrase and fuck up. But he said, I did a joke about cancer. Someone said you can't joke about cancer because it's not funny. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I did a joke about relationships. Someone said, oh, I just got dumped. You can't do a joke about relationships. I'm like, okay, fine. And you keep going down the line and you keep saying you can't do this joke and you can't do that joke because someone's going to be offended or hurt. And what are you left with then? What are you left with when no one's offended? The Big Bang Theory. And you know what? Now I'm offended because I'm offended by mediocrity. And it was just this beautiful bait and switch. Or I think he used the Big Bang Theory. He would change it up. Sometimes it was according to Jim, but he took the most benign show on television. And it was beautiful because I've done a similar joke where nothing like his, but the whole point is I do not want to offend anybody while I am on stage. That said, everybody is offended by something. And I think the problem today is we live in a time where if one person is offended, then their whole point is, well, everyone should be offended because I'm important, damn it. And everyone needs to feel the way I do. And it used to be where you just sort of like, you know, as long as you're not being Michael Richards on stage screaming the N-Bob, you just sort of brush it off.
Don't you find, for example, like, okay, for example, if you go to, I give comedians a greater amount of leeway. A comedian standing on stage with a mic can say something that if the guy in front of me in line at Albertsons said it to the checkout clerk would be highly offensive, right? Whatever that might be, right? So do you find that it actually affects your act? Do you actually find that when you're performing, you find people more highly offensive? Or in that environment, aren't they like, okay, we're here, bring it on?
It can be anything. I'm thinking off the top of my head, an act I changed a while ago. I had a bit where I referred to myself as a faggot.
Okay.
And I got a talking to after a couple, like, hey, don't use that word. I'm like, I was using it as a sort of self-reflective, weird way. And we went back and forth. And I'm like, no, I'm not calling anyone that but me. And I'm not, I don't even remember it. But the whole point was I just got frustrated when I said, all right, fuck it. And I changed the word to asshole. And then nobody had a problem. And it's like, on the one hand, I get it. It's a slur. I wouldn't refer myself. I wouldn't say the N-word and self-referral. So
Mhm.
on the one hand, I get it, like, okay, I'm using the now called F word when growing up, it's what every boy called their friend. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm not attacking anyone, like that's how I left that conversation was I'm attacking myself in this situation. And I don't even remember the bit really, but I remember that conversation. Or people don't listen to context is the problem. I remember this. I was in outside of Chicago. I had a pro-immigration bit where I talked about. I remember the punchline was we need a white trash to welfare exchange program where I talk about how immigrants come across the border and they're hardworking and we have people on welfare that aren't hardworking. So why don't we exchange them? Like every time an immigrant comes across the border, we send someone from a trailer park. And before I even got to the punchline, I mentioned immigration, and a Hispanic woman started yelling at me like, "Immigrants are good people." I'm like, "That's where I'm going with this." Well, you shouldn't be talking about like, can you shut the fuck? Like people hear what they want to hear first, and then they just start in on you before even listening to the end or the context. It doesn't happen a lot, but when they get in their own head and want to yell at you for whatever they want to yell at you about, then it's all over. And sometimes
Okay,
the club.
I'm gonna do something that my wife hates about, like, my wife hates it when I ask her to quantify something by like a percentage, like,
Oh, it's rare, but when it happens, it sucks. I can't.
Well, no. What I was gonna say is, have you noticed an increase? Like, we've known each other for 20 years, and as long as I've known you, you've been a stand-up comedian. So in the 20 some odd years that we've known each other, have you noticed an increase?
Yes, but I couldn't tell you the percentage. I just noticed that it does seem. Now that said, I'll tell you this. I have a great story that I think I did a local show at the University of Iowa, and I was doing a pro marriage equality joke,
Okay.
and I got yanked off stage. And the woman told me after the show, was like, "You were talking about gay marriage." I'm like, "Technically, I was talking about marriage equality, but okay, if you want to call it gay marriage, that's fine." She goes, "How do you think a gay person, I'm sorry, how do you think an LGBTQ person sitting in the audience listening to a cis white male talking about their institute?" I'm like, "You dumb cunt. I think they need what you call allies." I was being an ally, but again, she got fixated with it was a very pro marriage equality comment, but she didn't want a cis white male talking about marriage
Now,
equality
I'm
because I
dying to
wasn't in the
know.
community. Well, let me
I don't.
finish quick.
Okay,
So
okay.
that happened here at the University of Iowa. And the very next week, I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, very liberal college town. And I went in gun shy. I'm like, oh, Jesus, fuck, is this going to start happening? And I had some of the best shows of my life. I mean, I just had a blast, and I could say whatever I wanted because they were there to see comedy, and they were there to listen, and they were there to digest, and they were intelligent enough to not, like hear me say marriage equality and go, "Oh, nope, that's our issue." I'm like, sometimes you have to listen to the end, and not everybody does that.
Okay, now I'm curious, and for anyone who's listening to this and is engaged deeply in the politics involved and so on, I'm going to take a detour. What does Nathan Timmel, bear with me, getting yanked off the stage look like? Is it like the woman comes on and literally takes the mic out of your hand and pushes you off the stage, or does the PA guy come on and go, "Nathan, get off the stage, please"? Or like how does it?
Is that what you think an Iowan sounds like?
Does she take your hand and she's pulling you away, and you're like, "No, but I have more jokes. I have more jokes." Like what is it?
What he said is, the junior Timmel will now be leaving the stage.
Right. or does your mic just go? Do they just mute your mic in the middle? And you're like,
no, she walked up and stood next to me. Remember, there's going to be audio too, so all the miming won't translate to audio.
You know what? I think that every time I listen to Comedy Central, like on that, like the serious, that's the other thing I listen to. I do listen to the Comedy Network sometimes, and I do think that every time they're like, "Yeah," so she's like, and I'm like, "What's he doing? What's he doing? I can't see it."
Yeah,
I did that on one of my albums. I had a physical joke, and as the audience was applauding, and as it was dying down, I'm like, "Yeah, it'll be great for my album. I just did something physical," and everybody home's like, "That wasn't that funny." Well, you couldn't see me anyway. Like I made sure to say that on the album.
Well, yes, I just wondered. What Ann Arbor? How recently were you there? Was this would have been pre-COVID? Are you able to start? Are you working again? And or
not
did
as much
you
as I'd
even-
like, but I'm
Right.
going to Ann Arbor again this month, September. No, it's today's the 30th. I'll be there the
Lovely.
24th, 25th. I'll be in Ann Arbor soon.
Lovely. Michigan, wonderful state.
Yep, lovely
Higher
city.
on the list than Texas.
All right.
man.
Anything anybody wants to wrap up with? Anybody?
I don't know. I feel like, Nathan, it's just been you and me. Like, although you did ask me that question that I took like 8.5 years answering. So you did do that one.
Well,
But I feel like Barrett has something on it.
No, it's really good to just hear you guys catch up and chat and stuff. It's amusing.
That was supposed to be a three-way conversation. Sorry about that.
No, it was enough of one. It was more like watching my own private TV show, and I could break the fourth wall and jump in anytime I wanted to, then get back and watch it again.
Nice.
It's more like that.
Nice.
I'll ask one more music-related question. Do you
One
find,
more? What was the first one?
Well,
Yeah,
Oh, about the voice.
creativity
About the voice.
and-
Oh, my 20 friggin' hour answer. That's right.
Balance.
Okay.
Let me
Yeah,
ask you
balance.
this.
Here I am.
Do
Here I am.
you find that, have you made I would imagine that some of your best friends outside of family members are musicians, right?
Okay.
That's my guess.
You would be correct.
Are the people in the band some of your good friends now also? Or people in your work environment? Because I think that makes a difference too, right? Like, you have some creativity and things like that, but I find oftentimes for me on a gig, the music matters, obviously,
Yes.
but a lot of times it's the people playing the music more than the music.
All the
You know what I
time.
mean? Right.
All the time.
So like
All the time on a
wonder,
gig.
like-
I'll take the cool hang over the more
Right.
burning guy who's a jerk. Like,
right.
every day of the week. Of
Right,
course.
exactly. So like I wonder, are the people that you've met there, the producers, the coaches, even some of the artists, whatever, the people, have you made really good friends in your workspace?
Are you ready for this? I have stories and analogies for everything. Just ask my wife because she hates those too, by the way.
I see why you guys
She's a
got married.
lovely woman. My wife is a lovely woman. I don't know why she puts up with me.
I was just gonna say, are you
She's a
saying
lovely
she's a
woman.
tolerant woman? Is that what you're?
Yes, actually, she deals with me. I don't know. I can't. Anyway, so you know how when you first start dating a girl or a guy, and
So you
there's
didn't want to
that
get canceled right
period.
there. You didn't want to get canceled. Nate
well, I
Morton
didn't want to
says,
exclude. I didn't want to exclude. Yeah, I didn't want to exclude anyone you might be dating, right? So, so you just started dating, and there's that time period where you're just getting into a relationship. So a fight over almost anything can end it because you don't have much time invested, you don't have much energy invested, and it's kind of like, well, you're cool, but you're not that cool. I can't deal with you. Bye. Right. And then the longer you go into the relationship, eventually you cross this this threshold where every fight and or disagreement doesn't potentially spell doom for the relationship. You
Well,
realize
see, I
that
have
you
low
invested time-
self-esteem, so that's the first date for me because I'm desperate
Well-
to hold on to them.
Oh, well, that's your walk. That's your testimony. Well,
Continue, sorry.
Sure, you're good. So you have to jump in and interrupt me, otherwise you'll never get to talk. The show. So my question is this: at a certain point, your relationship with that person, it crosses a threshold. You're no longer friends. You're almost more family than you are friends. And so I say all that to say this. I am at the level now with the people in the band that I work with that we're family. We can have fights and know after lunch we'd be cool again. You know what I'm saying? We have fights and it's
How
not
many
like,
members came from In Excess?
3.
Hmm.
3.
How many are in the band total?
Myself.
Don't say
Sasha
that. Don't
Kristoff.
stop. I'm going to interrupt you right there.
Yeah.
My biggest pet peeve these days are people that say myself where me or I is appropriate, because myself just sounds so goddamn horrible.
I'm so sorry to hear
Me?
that. So the band is myself,
Me? God damn it.
Sasha Kristoff.
God damn it.
It's Sasha Kristoff on bass and
Yep.
Paul Merkovich on
Merkovich.
keys, right? So then the additional guys are Eric on second keys and Justin on guitar, and who am I leaving out? Oh, and another guitar player named Dave.
So 2 keys, 2 guitar, bass drums.
Correct. Dave,
Does Dave have a last name?
Barry.
Okay, I'm wondering if there's another. I know another Cali guy named Dave Wood.
Oh, so
He
Dave
did-
is. I know Dave Wood. Well, I know of
Okay.
Dave Wood.
Yeah.
No, Dave Barry is from Minneapolis. Dave
And he
Barry
used to
is
be a
rare...
writer in Florida.
No.
There is a Dave Barry writer in Florida. Very famous guy. You
Well,
don't
there's
read
also a
books, so you
famous.
wouldn't know.
Is that the same comedian though? Is it the same guy as the comedian? He had a show once. He had a TV show.
But he was never a comedian. No, oh, I know
Is
what
it-
you're thinking. No, different Dave Barry. Different.
Okay, I do know that Dave Barry.
Too
Okay.
common a name then.
Yeah, maybe. Dave is a rare instance in the sense that he has lived in Minneapolis and never lived in LA. And even being in Minnesota, higher on the list in Texas, also managed to work and get gigs in LA. So yeah. He's never been an LA guy. He's been a Minnesotan through and through. But what was the question?
Yeah.
I don't even remember anymore.
Well, you answered it. Was really, have you made good friends there? Because I think that makes
Oh,
a
yeah.
difference on the workplace too, right? Like
Yeah.
there's, if you go to work and it doesn't feel like, not that it doesn't feel like work, but it's an enjoyable thing.
Dude,
that
we
you
scream
enjoy
and
doing.
laugh and
Right.
and joke
Exactly.
and rib each other nonstop. And I think to myself, and I often mention it to my coworkers, and I just go, you know what? Like, think about this. We've been together. We spend at stretches of the season far more time with each other than we do with our actual families. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's completely.
How many
Not
years
even
has the
close.
show been on now?
We're in year. It's easier to think of in seasons. And so
Well, sometimes
we're
they
in
do 2 seasons a year, right?
No, we have been.
Yeah.
So we're in season 22, which means we've got to be going into, what is that, year 11 or so? 11 and a half years, something.
Have you been doing that gig this whole time?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. No,
That's
it's
very
been
cool,
amazing.
man.
It's a unicorn. The gig is a unicorn, man. I'm
Yeah,
so
man.
I'm
That's
so
awesome.
fortunate. And someone asked, we just recently, our keyboard tech slash like a bunch of other stuff that he did on the show, just recently left us to go to San Francisco. He took a job opportunity there. But someone asked him, they said, you know, why do you guys
He didn't
get
think
along
LA
so
had enough homeless. He had to go somewhere where they're shitting on the actual sidewalks.
Hey man, don't move here. So
I don't plan
don't move here. We have enough people.
Yes, you do. We have homeless here. His name is Carl. That's it.
So he just recently moved, but someone asked him once and they said, hey, Patrick, like, how do you guys get along so well? Like, why do you guys get along so well? And Patrick said, because we have to get along at that level. We have to be able to operate and be functional at that level, because if we weren't, we couldn't do this job. We're together too much. If the three of us were in a submarine, we would have to figure out how to get along. Like we couldn't hate each other and be at each other's throats. It wouldn't work, right? So that's kind of the way the Voice is. We're a family, you know. And I would also add to that's not just the music department. That's actually from the top head all the way down. The producers are awesome. All the way down, the whole production is really awesome. And everybody at their respective position in the show is amazing at what they do. Like, we have the best audio department on TV. We have the best camera ops. We have the best director. We have the best stage manager. I mean,
Well,
it is a really, I don't know. I consider myself blessed and fortunate. People are like, oh, you're so happy, Nate. Oh, you're so happy. What do? I play drums. I play drums, man, on a TV show. Like, what do I got to be mad about? Come on.
I'll tell you this. This isn't kissing your ass because I have no reason to, but I remember first seeing you on TV when you did Rockstar in Excess.
Okay.
And I remember the biggest show in the world then was American Idol. And I remember watching both shows. Well, yours, I watched Rockstar in Excess consistently on purpose. Like, it was, to me, must-see viewing. I got wrapped up in the drama, like, who's going home?
I remember this. Yes.
Oh, I enjoyed the shit out of that show. American Idol, I had an opinion on. I was agnostic. I didn't, you know, but I tuned in around that time, and I just thought it was so odd that, in my opinion, and I'm sorry to anybody I'm insulting, that the American Idol band just sounded like shit. I just thought whenever they played a tune, it just sounded like not. But the Rockstar band fucking nailed it, just hard. And I just thought it was interesting that American Idol was so fucking popular and yet so uninteresting, whereas Rockstar had the music but didn't take off.
Is it possible though that you're biased because we were playing rock music and American Idol was primarily pop?
maybe, but I think the thing that really brought it home for me, because I couldn't tell you the guy's name, but I can sort of picture him in my head. Like I remember he looked like this, was when and I blame both the singer and the American Idol band. I definitely blame the American. They
Taking them all
tried
down.
they tried Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic by the Police.
Huh.
And if you don't fucking nail that song, I mean, whatever they did to it, it was like, come on, you are professional musicians. You need to make that song sound fucking kicking. And it just sounded like bad karaoke. And some of it was the singer, but a lot of it was what was behind him. And in that moment, I was like, fucking Paul and Nate and Sasha, they could fucking do this song. They wouldn't kick the shit out of any Police song.
I'm trying to
I remember thinking that.
We have. Well, we've actually done that on the show.
On The Voice?
I might have even posted a little video, just like a little drum cam, a little dumb Nate.
Yeah, I've seen the drum cams. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if they're awesome, but they're fun. Yeah, I do those because when I used to watch shows like ours, or like if I'm watching Letterman even, and they come back from commercial and the band continues playing even another 10 seconds before they finish, I wanted to be able to see Anton. Like I wish I could see Anton, Carson, same thing. Any of those shows that had bands, I wanted to be able to see them. And
see,
so that's
Anton,
why I do that.
It's your childhood dream. It came true. Anton played for Kiss because Peter Criss was too drunk,
right.
And then you went on to play with Paul Stanley.
I did.
See how it all comes out.
I thought you were going to say it was a childhood dream being a drummer on a television show.
Oh, no. I was saying to drum for Paul Stanley because Anton drummed for Kiss. I went somewhere completely different with it.
Paul is amazing.
I wonder how much of your, like when you were a young drummer watching those shows as a young kid, was that one of your goals? Like, was that like, was that a dream gig of yours when you were a younger person?
No, because.
And if it was, at what point did you read The Secret and manifest it?
Okay, these are all great questions. So it wasn't a dream of mine because at the time it was like kind of an unattainable thing. Like there were talk shows, but The Voice didn't exist. Right now, being involved in a TV show, that seemed attractive because the idea of being able to be playing music and being at home was attractive, but it wasn't really something I pursued. If you would have asked me in college, like my dream gig, I would have said Sting, or I would have said Madonna, or I would have said Janet Jackson, or I would have said Michael Jackson, I would have said
Barrett got to play with Sting.
That's dope. That's
that was fun.
I bet. But just on that was me as a side guy musician going, I want to be on a big tour.
Sure.
Now, if The Voice had existed then, and you said, what's my dream gig? I would have said The Voice. Because it didn't exist then. A show with a band playing that much music over the course of the season, where that's what the feature is. I mean, to my knowledge, it didn't exist. You had music shows, you had Top of the Pops, you had whatever that was. But that's not the same thing.
But being completely honest,
yes,
having 27 kids, wouldn't being on tour and just not having to fucking go home be so much nicer than dealing with daddy, because I have two kids.
You have kids. No, but that's not
holy
true.
Shit.
You know that's not true from you having two kids. I know you're being facetious. There's nothing more fun than when you walk in the door and it's like, Daddy! And all the kids come charge you and all of it,
What does Chappelle say?
Mine
Chappelle
barely look
comes
up
home
from
and
their
everybody-
computers because they're busy playing some whatever fucking video game.
Well, they take a break.
I hear
They take a break to
I
breathe.
hear a hi daddy
go.
come from my daughter's bedroom, but then with my son, it's like Truman, and he's just like playing his video game. He fucking
There's a bit of that. But for me, like getting back to balance, and I think you were asking, I think a part of your question had to do with like, how do I find balance with a certain thing? One of the things that I love is lately I've got all my kids playing chess now, so that's way cool. It gets them off their screens for a bit. And then my 15 and my 9 both play tennis. And so I like to get out on the court with them. I'm not a great tennis player. I basically can only hit with my 9-year-old. My 15-year-old.
That I'll play with you then, because I just started that. My wife wanted to play tennis, and I'm like, all right, I'm old enough to where I can play the old person game, and I'm very bad. So I can play bad tennis with you next time we hang out.
Have you taken lessons? Like, have you had a coach or anything?
We took a 1-month course, but I had to miss one because of a gig, so I took 3 lessons.
Get a coach, because
I'm
there's a
not gonna-
lot that a coach will unlock and will demystify about your strokes and the angle of a racket and your grip and like your footwork and
Or I
all
could
that.
just play it like an idiot because I don't want to put too much time into tennis because I got
See,
other shit to do.
okay, you can do that too. You can do that too. I
Wait,
always-
what
I
you're
don't have a
saying
coach.
is
I
you
don't
say
have a
you
coach.
suck. I'm saying that I'll come play you. You're gonna get a coach. So when I come
No,
to play
no.
play you
I'm
as
just
a
I
at
don't
a
I'm
shit
not gonna
level,
get a coach.
you'll be up and beyond.
No, I don't have a coach. My son has a coach. And my daughter has a coach. And so I've gleaned information from them that I realize, like, there are certain things. Wow, we've talked about so much more other stuff besides music. I hope this wasn't supposed to be a music podcast.
No. It was just supposed to be an
but there-
anything kind of podcast. But
Okay, well,
what
good.
you're saying is the voice pays well enough that two of your kids have tennis coaches. That's all I'm hearing.
What I'm saying is I have no disposable income because I put it into my kids' tennis.
There you go. Fair enough. That sounds about right.
No, man, they enjoy it.
Good.
And,
They should.
Do any of your kids play music?
My son Brandon, who's 19, he plays piano, and that's kind of it. So I was right at the point where I was just about to pull the trigger on piano lessons for the 9, and then this. So now that, you know, when the dust settles and I feel sort of comfortable about it, I will reopen the piano lessons for Isabel sort of folder. But that's all. My son Miles, who's 6 now. I taught him to play someone my son
I was gonna
Miles,
say
who's 21 now.
Yeah.
When he was 6,
I was Miles 2.0. Did you have a second Miles because you used to want a different name?
Dude, that kid, man, it's so funny. Dad, he calls me today. Dad, hey, go to FaceTime. Okay, Dad. Boop. Okay, hey, Miles, what's up? Dad, let me show you my apartment. Like, he has his first apartment in Bowling Green, Kentucky. He's at University of Kentucky on a speech and debate scholarship, this kid.
Damn.
Full scholarship. He found speech and debate his junior year. End of junior year, he won a national title. End of senior year, he won another national title. He's on a freaking speech and debate. Yeah.
Jesus, goddamn
really,
fuck.
But he's showing me his apartment. Dad, look here and here. This is where I keep my this. This is where I keep my that. So it's so funny, like, this kid who I remember, like, running around like a crazy person when he was like 3, 4, or 5 years old. And then I remember
that's all I remember.
Right. And then I remember him going through school, and for a lot of his, he would not mind if I shared this with you even. For a lot of his academia, didn't excel. Like, wasn't necessarily kicking butt. And I was definitely like, what am I gonna do with this kid? Like, when is this kid gonna get his act together? And, like, sure enough, man, like, he really did. I'm very proud of him.
He just had to find that one thing. He had to find Curly. He had to find Curly's. You find that one thing, nothing else means shit.
What's that from?
City Slickers.
City Slickers. That's right.
Yep.
So that's Miles. That's Miles. He found speech and debate, and the rest is history. And I'm really lucky. I know you were joking about, escaping your kids, and sure, they're stressful, and sure, there's 6 of them and all of it. But I mean, someone asked me the other day. So my 4-year-old, I will give them names. I want to give them all due time. My 4-year-old is I usually name him from the top back. And so I had to hesitate for a second. Like, what is his name? My 4-year-old's name is Julian, right? That's my boy Julian. And then my 6 is Amelia. My 9 is Isabel. And then Lachlan is my tennis player. Isabel and Lachlan are my tennis players. He's 15. And then my 19 is who I have to get soon, actually. He is a college freshman. And then Miles is a junior in college, 21. And it's fun, man. I did one of these recently, and someone said, what are your next, your goals? You've done this TV show, you've done this, what are your next goals? And I pretty much said, well, I always thought it would be neat to have kind of a sports car. And so I have kind of a sports car. That's cool. I always thought it'd be cool to have, like, what I consider to be an attractive wife. And I think that I do have an attractive wife. Okay, that's cool. I always wanted a cool gig. Okay, I think I have a cool gig. That's cool. So now I kind of feel like I've done kind of what I wanted to do. So now my goals all have to do with my kids. They all have to do with, like, watching Miles graduate college, watching Brandon graduate college at some point, watching Lachlan as a freshman, hopefully make his varsity tennis team, watching Isabel work her way through, middle school, whatever it is, and on down. And so that's where my goals are now. And so you talk about balance. That's what motivates me now.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
be around and watch my kids do stuff. Yeah, it's
It
cool,
almost makes me
Really
not
cool.
want to say watching the boys avoid herpes and the girls grow up to avoid teen pregnancy. Almost makes
Well,
me
I
want
mean,
to not say that.
but there is something to be said for that part of it as well. But yeah, man, it's cool. It's cool. And it's interesting. I mean, I am a very different almost 50-year-old with 6 kids than I was a late 20-year-old with 1 kid. Like I there is no more room in my life for my own ego. Like my
Mhm.
ego is
Yeah.
long gone. There's no room in my life for my ego. All that room is now populated by all the time and energy and love that I hope to give to these kids and guidance and all of that. I don't get to be selfish Nate, all the time like I did once upon a time. So it's good. I think it's for the better. I have a thing on my wall, and it's a paraphrasing. I think the original. It says today's goal: be better than your former self. And that's just me. I have a whiteboard, and I just usually write things to myself. And I wrote that, and it hasn't gone down. And it's
Because it wouldn't, because it's something to live up to every goddamn day. Yep.
Yeah. There's no nobility in being better than your fellow man. True nobility is being better than your former self.
Yeah.
God damn. Well, I don't think we can do any better of that to sign off. So this is the point where we whore ourselves. Quick, give your website. Anybody wants to message you and get a free CD or anything else?
Sure.
Is it just NateMorton.com or
NateMorton.com? Everyone should own their own name.com. NateMorton.com. So you can hit me
I should
there.
make that my website. Everyone should own their own name. Yeah, anyway.
Yes, NateMorton.com. It's actually new. And in fact, on the subject.
Oh, I know. You just launched it a few weeks ago.
That's right. And Brandon actually made my website, my 19-year-old. Because I was never gonna get my crap together to like do it myself. And I was just like, hey Brandon, here's a couple dollars. Would you design your old man a website? And he was like, sure. And every step along the way, he's Australian. My wife is Australian. Every step along the way, I'll be like, so Brandon, I'm thinking like this. Can you do that? And he would like, Raw, I think so. Okay, can you do this? I think so. Can you do this? I think so. And I was like, all the while, I'm like, he nailed it.
There you go.
Kid nailed it.
Well, check out NateMorton.com, Barrett, your turn, AntarGoodwin.com, but the other one, KatieHenryMusic.com, because Barrett's the musical director for the Katie Henry Band. Quick, give everything I forget. The actual album title, the release date, everything that's...
album title is On My Way.
On My Way.
The release date is in flux at the moment because
what happened to October?
It was going to be October 15th, but then we had some artwork things that needed to be redone, which made us miss that deadline.
Unfortunate.
Not our fault. It wasn't our fault, just some
tasteful nudes of you on the cover.
We were trying that.
Burt Reynolds, bearskin.
You had a woman on all fours with a glove stretched out and an album title called Smell the Glove. It's sexist. Sexy. What's wrong with being sexy?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being sexy.
What's wrong with being sexy?
Oh, it's the twist. See, now
look at the White Album. There was nothing on that goddamn cover.
If she had the glove and was forcing you to say, it's just the little twist there, isn't it?
Such a
between
fine line
and clever.
Between clever and stupid.
Yeah.
Between stupid and clever.
So how far back?
Every time anyone references that movie, like if I'm in a conversation, I immediately have to watch it. So that's what I'll be watching later on tonight. I have to watch it. It's genius.
I need to watch it too. I haven't.
Is anyone listening too young?
I should
know that movie.
I should. Oh,
what's your demographic? You think people know that movie?
It's random.
Or do you think? Oh, your demographic or that movie?
Yeah, it's random. It's I get weird messages like, "Holy shit, this person listens," but I should have it on my shelf somewhere. I don't. It should be sitting right off to my side. But all right. So how far back do you think that's going to push the new album?
Well, either a month or to the top of the new year. We haven't decided yet.
All right.
We're in debates about it just because of COVID and touring and.
Well, there's nothing wrong with waiting to get something right than putting out something that is not what you want.
That's my thought too. And if we hold off till January, we just have a lot more time to get some of the dates in order.
There you go.
I mean?
All right.
We had a handful of dates, but so many are just like, well, let's hold off and wait to see what happens with COVID, or a lot of like potential gigs. A lot of like gigs that are on the books, but they're like But, you know, and I was like, oh, if we wait till January, we might not have that as an issue, but who knows?
I'm not gonna. We're signing off, so I'm not. But the thing that fucking pisses me off is every dickbag that says "open up the economy" is pretty much the same asshole that says "I'm not getting a vaccination." Well, if you just get fucking vaccinated, then we can open the goddamn economy. Anyway,
I think that's what's going to pressure people too, though. I think that even the people who are like politically don't want to get vaccinated, I think that they're going to start going like, yeah, but I do want to go to concerts. And
well, the one
I do want to
or
go to
get
these
on
things
an
again.
airplane,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
any
so-
number. Yeah.
Well, when I was going to open the show by saying, okay, we're not going to talk about anything sensitive here, you know, cancel culture. When that was going to be the theme, instead we just went fucking running down so many paths. I was going to say that, like, for instance, I do not want to get you in trouble. I want to protect your gig and our friendship. So I worry about cancel culture. Like me personally, I'm fully willing to say that I find it hilarious that this week, the third in a month, right-wing conservative talk show, COVID denier dickbag died of COVID. And that just makes me happy and laugh. But I don't want to put that on you, who at least you're shaking your head. You should quickly jump in and say, I don't find that funny, because sure, I'll take the cancel for it, but
I don't find it funny.
I think it's
I actually
hilarious.
find it sad because it's preventable.
That's why I find
my
it funny.
takeaway.
See,
it's
it's that twist again.
And I get it. I mean,
that's why I think it's hilarious, because
I
you could have gotten a vaccination, but you chose to say, fuck Dr. Fauci, he's a liar. And now you're dead of the disease that you thought was fake. Fuck you.
Yeah, no. And I do understand that sentiment. Like, I do understand that sentiment. I don't take any delight in anyone passing away.
Because you're a good person. This goes back to when we met. I said, he is a kind, wonderful person. That's who I should be more like.
You know what the truth is?
That's what I said. Is I need to be more like Nate, but instead I'm this evil fucking wrong guy that is this is why you're successful and I'm sitting in a basement.
Oh, stop it. Well, I'm sitting in a garage. So
a very pretty garage. Look at this doom and gloom. Anyway, all right. My website is nathantimmel.com. The latest album is Skinny Fat. As I've said, it's a 50% new material, 50% old material, but for the first time in my career,
but
and maybe the last,
100% funny,
100% funny and clean clean. No F-bombs, no asshole, no shits, nothing like
that.
You're
doing the Eddie Murphy, are you?
What's that?
I said you're doing the Eddie Murphy, are you?
I'm doing the yes. I listened to the watch with all the flim flam, whatever.
Well, he did. Well, he did. Well, but I was just saying he did Raw, and then he did Delirious, and then he did Raw, and then he was Dr. Dolittle, or whatever he was. Or he was the Clumps. You know, family friendly Eddie.
I wanted to get one out there that was at least clean, but I've already started dialing up the next one. So either way, the Skinny Fat's the most recent album, and the book is We Are 100, still rocking solid reviews. Yeah. Sent it to Nate. He should give it to his wife because he doesn't know how to read.
It's true.
Give it to your wife. I'm not saying this to be weird, but I do find that women connect with it more, maybe because the lead character is female. I don't know. But either way, that you can click through my website, but it's available on Amazon. And Nate, thank you so much for hanging with us. Go get your son.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure. Yes, he's at college. He's at college. He's finishing the class from 6 to 9. So I'll be headed over to pick him up when he's all done.
Yeah, man. It's good to meet you officially.
Sure. You know? Likewise. Good to hang with you guys. Good to hang. Man. Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to see you in person again. And let's do this again in a year.
We got it. You got it.
All right. But we'll talk before then. All right. I'll be in touch and texting you. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Man.
All right, cats. Talk to you later.